I was about 10 hours into my drive, somewhere between El Paso and nowhere, when the sun finally gave up on the day. The horizon melted into a flat smear of orange and dust, the kind of quiet, scorched desolation you only get in West Texas. I'd been surviving off convenience store coffee, sunflower seeds, and the occasional half-melted granola bar. My eyelids were twitching from too much caffeine, and my back ached like hell. So when I saw the off-ramp, an unmarked, weed-choked exit just past mile marker 312, I took it. No signs, no towns listed, just a wide curve that dipped down and disappeared into a stretch of dying mesquite and loose gravel. I figured maybe there'd be gas or a place to crash for the night. There wasn't gas, but there was a motel. It sat at the end of a narrow frontage road, boxed in by fence posts and nothing. The kind of place you don't see until it's too late to turn around. 12 rooms lined up in a row like crooked teeth, the stucco walls crumbling, roof patched with mismatched tiles. There wasn't a sign, just a rusted neon vacancy flickering half-heartedly above a boarded-up manager's office. I pulled in, cut the engine, and just listened. Nothing, not even wind. The desert felt heavier here, like it was watching. I chalked it up to fatigue. The front desk wasn't inside the boarded office. It was in a weird glass booth beside it. Inside, a man leaned over a yellowing register. His hair was red, not vibrant, more like bleached by too much sun and not enough water, and his skin had the texture of old leather. He wore a plaid shirt and had a smile that was a little too easy. "Evening?" he said as I approached. "Hey, you got a room?" He looked up, squinted like he was inspecting me. "Same room as last time, huh?" I blinked. "What?" He chuckled and waved his hand like I was being coy. "Don't worry, man. Room 7's always yours." "I've never stayed here before." "Sure you have. Must have been, what, couple years back? You had that beat-up sedan then, Navy tags on the rear view." That stopped me. I had served in the Navy, yeah. But I didn't remember this place. I'd never even been through this stretch of Interstate 10 before. I opened my mouth to argue, but something about his gaze, too steady, too calm, made me let it drop. "Must be a mix-up," I muttered. He reached under the counter and pulled out an old-fashioned brass key. It had the number 07 on a dull green tag. "Still works," he said, "even if the room's seen better days." "How much?" I asked. "Don't worry about it." "Excuse me?" He smiled wider. "Call it a welcome-back gift." Something about that smile made the base of my skull itch. I took the key without another word. The rooms were in worse shape up close. Dust caked the windows, and some of the doors were warped, like they'd been wet too long and dried crooked. Room 7 sat near the end of the row. As I walked past the others, I didn't see any lights on, just shadows behind drawn curtains. Room 7 had water stains on the ceiling, and the doorframe looked like it had been gnawed on by termites or worse. The number plate was cracked, the brass key slipped in with a reluctant click, and the door opened with a whine. Inside, the air was thick. Old. The kind of must that doesn't come from dust alone. The carpet was threadbare, the sheets were folded tight but stained, and the wallpaper peeled in strips big enough to catch your foot on. There was a standing lamp in the corner that didn't work when I flipped it. The ceiling fan made one sad rotation and quit. And the mirror, oh man, the mirror. It was above the dresser, tilted just slightly downward. I could see my face, sweaty and drawn, eyes ringed with exhaustion, but the glass was permanently fogged, like someone had just stepped out of a hot shower. I wiped it with the edge of my sleeve. It cleared for a second, then fogged over again. No matter how much I tried, it wouldn't stay clear. That was the first real red flag, but I didn't listen to it. I was too tired. I collapsed onto the bed, shoes and all. My phone buzzed once, a work email I ignored. I stared at the ceiling and counted the cracks, trying to focus on something real. That's when I realized there were no sounds outside, no cars on the highway, no crickets, not even the wind, just this humming quiet that settled into your chest and made your heartbeat feel too loud. I didn't plan to fall asleep, but I must have drifted off, because the next thing I remember is waking up in the dark to a knock. not on the door, from inside the wall. For a full second, I lay there, frozen. I hadn't even rolled onto my side yet. My limbs were stiff, my spine ached from the lumpy mattress, and the knock had been soft, just 3 deliberate thuds from the wall behind the headboard. Room 08, if the layout was standard, but that sound didn't carry the normal hollow echo of pipes or shifting wood. It had weight to it, like knuckles against drywall. I sat up slowly, swinging my legs off the bed, trying not to make a sound. I waited. Nothing. "Hello?" I whispered. My voice barely made it past my throat. Silence, then tap, 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 tap. I blinked. Morse code. I hadn't thought about that in years, but it came back instantly. Old habits. That pattern meant one thing: HELP. I stood and stepped closer to the wall, placing my palm flat against the wallpaper. It was warmer than the rest of the room. I could feel a faint vibration beneath the plaster. "Who's there?" I asked, louder this time. No answer. I pressed my ear to the wall. Nothing. Then, faintly, so faint I thought it might be in my head, I heard breathing. Slow. Rhythmic. I jerked back. The feeling of déjà vu was stronger now, coiled around my spine like a hand. Everything about this room felt off, wrong in a way I couldn't explain, and yet it also felt familiar, like a dream I forgot and was now half remembering in the dark. I flicked the bedside lamp. No light. I turned on my phone flashlight and swept the room. Everything was still, quiet. But that silence was too complete, like the world had been padded. I spotted a nightstand drawer beside the bed. Curious, I pulled it open. Inside was a small, leather-bound guestbook, the kind you used to see in roadside inns before everything went digital. I thumbed through it, expecting to see the usual, scribbled complaints, forgettable messages, maybe a phone number from some couple trying to be cute. Instead, I saw my own name, Daniel Cruz, El Paso, Texas, 2017. My fingers went cold. I flipped the page. Daniel Cruz, San Diego, California, 2019. Another page. Daniel Cruz, Albuquerque, 2021. Each signature looked like mine. Identical. The same tilt, the same rushed loop in the D, the same pressure on the Z. I hadn't written any of them. I swear to God. I stood there for a full minute, the book open in my hands, the air around me heavy. My breath came slower. The edges of my vision felt fuzzy. It was like being underwater. And then came another knock. But this time, it was behind me. I spun around. The mirror. Fogged. But I hadn't breathed near it. Something had. I stared into the hazy glass. For a moment, I thought I saw a shape behind me. A shoulder, maybe a head. But when I turned, nothing. Just the stale room, that smell of mold and time. I couldn't stay in here. I needed to talk to the front desk. I grabbed the guest book, stuffed it into my backpack, and yanked the door open. The desert outside was unchanged. No wind, no insects, just dead stillness and heat, and every door down the motel row was closed. Except room 8. It was cracked open an inch. The door to room 08 stood open, just enough to show a slice of darkness. The hallway light from the overhang barely touched the edge of the frame. I stared at it, holding my breath, half expecting someone to slowly pull it wider. But nothing moved. No sound, just the same thick, desert silence. I stepped toward it. I didn't know why. Maybe curiosity. Maybe something deeper, something I didn't want to name. The guest book felt heavy in my backpack, like it was dragging me back toward answers I wasn't ready for. I reached the door and pressed it open with one finger. The room inside was identical to mine. Same layout, same chipped furniture, same fogged mirror above the dresser, but this one had something mine didn't. A chair in the middle of the room. And on that chair, someone had etched a single word into the wood in shaky, carved lines. Returned. There were no bags, no clothes, no sign of who stayed there. Just that word, scratched deep into the seat. I didn't step inside. My instincts kicked in finally. I backed away slowly, closed the door as gently as I could, and returned to my room. Except the mirror was clear now, perfectly clean, not a trace of fog. I stopped in the doorway. My heart was pounding hard, too fast. I stepped inside, cautiously, like the room might snap shut around me. I stared at the mirror. My reflection was standing there. Same clothes, same face, same everything. Except, it moved a second too soon. I froze. I turned my head to the left. The reflection already had. I leaned forward. It leaned before I even moved. I reached up slowly, testing it, waving my hand in the air like I was trying to confuse it, but every movement I made, it already knew. It anticipated. Then it smiled. I hadn't. I stumbled back, almost tripping over the nightstand. The reflection froze, its smile gone in an instant. I grabbed the mirror and yanked it off the wall. It hit the floor and shattered with a sound that seemed to echo longer than it should have. For a second, I thought I saw something in the shards. A face. Another me, watching from underneath the surface. The silence returned, heavier now. It felt like something had been disturbed, like breaking the mirror cracked more than just glass. I sat on the edge of the bed, running a hand over my face, trying to steady my breathing. Then the knock came again. Only this time, it was from inside the closet. I didn't move at first. I just stared at the door. A plain wooden closet with a sliding panel. Nothing unusual, nothing threatening, except for the slow, deliberate knock, 3 short taps. Then a pause. Then, "Let me finish what you started." The voice was hoarse, whispered, familiar, too familiar. "Who are you?" I said. My voice cracked. No answer, just breathing. I stood up, step by shaky step, and reached for the closet door. I grabbed the edge and slid it open. Empty, just dust and old metal hangers. No sign of anything alive. I looked behind the clothes rail, even checked the floor. Nothing. And yet, the voice lingered in my head. The exact tone, the exact rhythm. It sounded like me. I slammed the closet shut. I had to get out of this room. I grabbed my keys and headed straight to the front desk booth, the guest book still in my backpack. Red was there, leaning on the counter like he'd been waiting the whole time. His smile didn't fade when he saw me. "Can't sleep?" he asked. "I need to ask you something." "Shoot. How long have I been here before?" His eyes twitched just for a second. "You always ask that." I froze. "What do you mean?" He reached down, pulled out a small remote, and pointed it toward a tiny black monitor below the counter. He pressed a button. Footage played in grainy black and white. The parking lot. A car pulling in. My car. But it was daylight, hours earlier. And the man getting out wasn't dressed like me. He wore a darker shirt, old sunglasses, and he moved like he knew exactly where to go. He didn't even pause at the front desk, just walked straight to room 07. "That's not me," I said. Red tilted his head. "You sure? I got here after sunset." "You always do." I backed away from the counter. "I want to leave." Red smiled. "Course you do." I didn't wait. I sprinted to my car, jumped in, started the engine, and hit the gas. The motel disappeared in my rearview mirror. The highway was empty for about 10 minutes. Then I saw the off-ramp again. Same angle, same curve, same busted guardrail. I was back where I started. The motel sat at the end of the road, still standing, still waiting, and room 07's light was on. I didn't remember turning around. 1 minute I was driving away from the place, and the next I was rolling back up the gravel road, my tires crunching over familiar stones. My hands trembled on the wheel as I coasted to a stop. The motel's sickly neon vacancy buzzed louder this time. Its light flickered in a rhythm that almost sounded like a pattern, like a code. Room 7's light was still on, like it had never gone off. I sat in the car for a full minute, engine idling. I tried to tell myself I was dreaming, that I was still on the bed, asleep, dehydrated, and exhausted. But my hands didn't feel like dream hands. They were clammy and shaking. When I stepped out, the desert air hit me harder than before. It was warmer now, not the usual nighttime chill, but like I'd walked into a closed oven. The silence was louder too, a kind of pressure on my ears, like something was pressing in from every direction. I walked back to the front booth. Red was still there, standing exactly as I'd left him. "You didn't get far," he said, like he was greeting an old friend. "What the hell is going on?" I demanded. "I drove out of here. I watched the road behind me." He shrugged. "This place has its own rules. You know that." "No, I don't. I've never been here before." "You sure about that?" I slammed the guestbook down on the counter. "I found this in my room. My name's in it. Over years. That doesn't make sense." He didn't look at it. He didn't even glance down. "You always find that," he said, "and you always throw it at me like it's new." My throat dried. "What do you mean, always?" "You come, you ask, you panic, you try to leave. Then you come back. Round and round." He leaned in closer, his voice dropping to a whisper. "Some folks stay gone longer than others, but they all come back." I took a step back. "I want to see every camera, every tape you've got." Red chuckled. "Now we're at that part." He ducked under the counter, pulled out a small tablet, not the kind of setup I'd expect from a rundown place like this. He handed it to me, and the screen flickered to life. Footage, a grid of time-stamped video clips. I tapped the most recent one. I watched myself walk to room 07 just before nightfall, except I wasn't wearing the clothes I had on now. I wore a pale blue shirt I hadn't packed, and I carried a duffel bag I didn't own anymore. I scrubbed backward through older clips. There I was again, entering the same room, over and over. My hair was shorter in one, thinner in another. In one, I had a limp I didn't remember ever having. In another, a sunburn across my neck. "What is this?" I whispered. "You," Red said, "every time." "How many?" He shrugged. "Depends. Some folks burn out after 3 or 4. You..." He trailed off. "You're persistent." I dropped the tablet on the counter. "This is insane. None of this is possible." He didn't argue, just kept smiling. I turned and walked away fast, hearing his voice float behind me. "You'll be back." "You always are." This time I didn't bother with the car. I walked. I figured if the road was cursed, maybe the dirt wouldn't be. I cut through the lot and climbed over the shallow ditch at the edge. The desert stretched ahead, endless. Dry brush, cracked earth, stars overhead. I walked until my legs burned. I didn't look back. I didn't let myself. When I finally turned around, I expected nothing. Maybe a dark horizon. Maybe just emptiness. Instead, the motel lights were right behind me. I had walked in a circle. Room 7's light was still on. My breath caught in my throat. I was dizzy. I dropped to my knees and screamed into the dirt. It came out hoarse, raw, like my lungs were coated in sand. The motel just sat there, watching. I forced myself up and stumbled back to the room. I opened the door without using the key. It was warmer inside now. The air was humid, like a breath that never left. I looked at the mirror, still shattered, but the shards had moved. They were arranged in a circle now, and in each fragment I saw a different version of myself, laughing, crying, screaming, silent. A dozen Daniels, all frozen in glass. And then my phone rang. I hadn't touched it since earlier. It sat on the dresser, lit up with one word. Me, not a number. Just me. I picked it up with shaking hands and pressed answer. Static. Then my own voice. "You always come back too late. You never finish what you start." "Who is this?" I whispered. "You." The call ended. The room went dark. The bulb above me popped with a hiss. I sat there, heart pounding, breathing fast, waiting for something else to happen. But nothing did. Outside, room 8's door creaked open again, and from inside, someone knocked. Tap, 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 tap. Help. The knock echoed in my chest this time. Not loud, never loud, but insistent. Morse code for help again, like it had been all along. I should have run. I should have screamed. I should have burned the damn place down. But instead, I stood, walked to the door, and stepped outside like I had no choice. And maybe I didn't. Roommate's door creaked wider as I approached. Still no light inside, just that same stale heat wafting from within, thick with mildew and rust and something that smelled like a wet basement. I told myself I'd only peek. I wouldn't go in. Not this time. I crossed the threshold. The air changed the second my foot touched the carpet, like I'd stepped underwater. Sound dropped out. Even the blood in my ears felt muffled. I turned to look back, but the door was gone. Not shut. Gone. Just 4 walls now. The same layout as room 07, but twisted. Everything reversed, like the room had been mirrored, flipped in on itself. The ceiling fan spun slowly overhead, even though I hadn't touched a switch. The mirror above the dresser wasn't fogged or broken. It was clean. Too clean. I stepped closer, and it lit up on its own, not from reflection, but from within. It showed a room just like this one, but with me already standing inside. Not how I looked now, though. This Daniel had sunken eyes and pale skin, like he hadn't seen daylight in weeks. His navy tattoos had faded, and his face twitched in ways mine never had. He watched me through the glass, then raised his hand and tapped once on his side of the mirror. Tap, 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 tap. I backed away, heart thudding. He didn't follow. He just watched. "Stop it," I whispered. He smiled, a twisted, slow smile like the clerk's, and mouthed something. I leaned closer. He mouthed it again. "You brought me here." Behind me, a voice spoke, not from the mirror, but inside the room. "You made a deal. You forgot, but you always forget." I spun around. There was a man sitting on the bed. Same building, same hairline, same everything. It was me. Not a reflection, not a ghost. A living, breathing version of me, except aged, worn out. His face sagged with the kind of fatigue you can't fake. His eyes were dead, not blank, just empty. "Who are you?" I choked. "You, one of many," he said. "We made a mistake. Years ago. Thought this place was a joke. We stopped for gas, remember?" I didn't. Not clearly. But some distant image flickered in my mind, pulling into a tiny gas station next to a motel that looked just like this one. "We went inside," he said. "Signed the book. They told us it was free." "I don't." "You do. You always do. They take something when you sign, not your soul. That'd be merciful. They take versions of you. Ones that could have been. Ones that shouldn't have been." I staggered backward. My legs hit the dresser. "I don't want this. I didn't ask for this." Number. But we all thought we were just passing through. I closed my eyes, trying to shut him out. "What do I do? How do I leave?" "You don't." When I looked again, he was standing inches from me. "But one of us might, and the rest have to stay." Then he lunged. I slammed against the wall, fists flailing. We fought, not like strangers, but like twins, each move mirrored, every punch anticipated. He threw me into the closet door. I kicked him off. I grabbed a broken piece of the mirror from the floor and slashed blindly. He gasped. Blood sprayed across the dresser, but the second it hit the wall, it vanished, like water sucked into a sponge. He staggered, collapsed. I knelt beside him, breath ragged. His chest rose once, then again, then stilled. But as I watched, his face began to change. His features shifted, became more like mine, exactly like mine, down to the scar on my chin, the line in my left eyebrow from a childhood fall. He became me. I stumbled back, mouth dry, my head spun, and then the mirror across the room showed a new reflection. Me, standing over my own body. The voice returned, but now it came from everywhere. The mirror, the walls, the ceiling. "You've broken the pattern. Now you take his place." The walls began to shake. Dust poured from the ceiling. The air thickened with static. I sprinted for the door. This time, it was there. I threw it open and found myself at the front desk again. Red stood behind the counter. His smile was gone. "You always try this," he said flatly. "You always come back." I ran past him, past the booth, straight to the lot. My car waited, keys still in the ignition. I didn't look back. I floored it. Gravel flew. The headlights cut through the darkness. I found the highway, but the road signs had changed. Now they all pointed one way. 07, not a route, not a town, just the number. I kept driving anyway, and behind me, the rearview mirror started to fog. The farther I drove, the more the desert bled together. Mesquite bushes warped into skeletal trees. The stars spun slow above me like they'd been smeared across glass. I passed 3 more signs. 7. Again, again, again. There were no towns, no exits, no other cars. Just mile after mile of asphalt that felt more like a treadmill than a highway. I reached for my phone. No signal. No time on the screen. Just a black display and the date stuck on July 7th, 2007. I threw it into the passenger seat, heart pounding. Something cracked behind my eyes, a pressure that wouldn't go away. I kept driving until the road bent. It curved sharply right and spilled me back out where I never wanted to see again, the motel. Only this time, there were 2 of them, side by side, identical, same flickering vacancy sign, same row of doors, same boarded-up office, except the one on the right had every room lit up, all 12, and through every window I saw me, dozens of me, sitting on beds, pacing rooms. Some were yelling, others sat still, hands over their faces. One was laughing, a dry, broken sound I didn't recognize as mine. Room 7's door on the right motel swung open slowly, and one of the Daniels stepped out. He was calm, collected, like he'd been waiting. He walked toward my car, barefoot on the gravel. I stepped out to meet him. He tilted his head, studying me. "You're close," he said. "Close to what?" "The center." "What is this place?" He didn't answer, just pointed behind me. I turned. The road was gone, just flat desert now, stretching into black. "You need to go back to the room," he said. "There's no exit unless you remember what you left behind." "I don't remember anything." "You will." He walked past me, disappearing into the motel on the left. The dark one, the original. I didn't follow. Instead, I stepped toward the mirror-lit motel. Windows pulsed with soft light, and each room flickered between different versions of myself. One of them, the one in room 07, stared at the mirror, just like I had. He raised his hand. The light in his room dimmed. Then he turned and looked directly at me. He mouthed the words, "It wasn't your idea, but you agreed." Suddenly, the desert buzzed. A low hum that crawled under my skin. The ground trembled. Both motels flickered. Not the lights, the buildings themselves, glitching, phasing in and out of place like a bad transmission. Then something stepped out from behind the left motel. It wasn't human. It looked like me at first, or at least started that way, but it was too tall. Its face stretched longer than it should have, skin like wax, dripping and reforming. Its eyes, or where its eyes should be, were just deep circular voids, echoing with distant static. And it smiled. Not with a mouth, but with its whole head, a crack that split from temple to chin. I ran, not toward the car. It was gone. Not into the desert. There was no path. Back to the motel. The dark one. Room 7's door was open. Inside, the mirror had returned. Fixed. Fogged. I stepped in, shutting the door behind me. The air folded in on itself. I didn't want to look, but I had to. I faced the mirror. This time, the reflection wasn't me. It was someone else. A young man. Shorter, messy hair, barely 20. I recognized him. Danny. Me, before the Navy, before the world got sharp. He looked terrified. "Daniel?" he whispered. "Is that you?" I think so. You left me here. I don't remember. You don't want to. You promised you'd come back." My knees buckled. "I didn't mean to." "You did. You signed the book, said you'd come back and finish the exchange." I shook my head. "Exchange what?" "Your future, for your freedom." I backed away. The mirror flickered. Now it showed me. Present day, worn down, hollow-eyed. "You came back," said the voice behind me. I turned. The wax-faced entity stood in the corner. "You broke the loop," it hissed. Now the rest will unravel. It reached out, its fingers splintered into antennae. They brushed my forehead, and then I saw everything. The first time I signed the guest book, the gas station off I-10, Red offering me a free room if I agreed to a small favor. Just a night. One version of me would stay behind, a copy, a placeholder. I stared into the mirror, and the man staring back looked like me, but something was wrong. Subtle things at first. His smile curved just a little too long. His pupils seemed dilated, even in the light. He blinked out of rhythm with me, like he was forgetting which version he was supposed to be. I raised my hand. So did he. I clenched my fist. He waved. A chill rolled through me. The mirror shimmered slightly, like the surface of a pond. The air buzzed with pressure again, the kind of static hum I remembered from sonar screens. You learn to listen for patterns in that kind of work. And something was broadcasting now. Not in sound, but in tension. I stepped closer. The glass rippled, and then a crack formed down the center, thin, jagged, like a mouth splitting open. "Welcome back," said the reflection, voice layered in reverb. "Who are you really?" I whispered. "I'm what's left when you leave. Every time." My stomach turned. "You're not real. You made me real. Every time you chose escape over responsibility. Every time you ran." I backed up, nearly tripping on the rug. The air in the room thickened with dust that hadn't been there a second ago. It was like the motel was decaying from the inside, fast-forwarding through its own death. "You promised you'd return and finish it," the mirror said. "I never promised anything." "You did. You were just too tired to read the fine print." The guest book sat on the dresser again, pages fluttering like they were caught in wind. I picked it up. Every page had a version of my name now, hundreds of them. Daniel Cruz, D. Cruz, Dan K. Cruz. One even said just D in scribbled ink. All different handwritings, all undeniably mine. The last page was blank. A pen lay next to it. "I'm not writing anything," I said aloud. "But someone will," said a voice from the doorway. I turned. Red was there, leaning casually against the frame, but his eyes weren't brown anymore. They were glassy and full of swirling gray fog, like a storm cloud trapped behind corneas. "You made it farther than most," he said. "What is this place?" I asked, the question finally meaning something deeper. "It's the motel where you rest after breaking yourself into too many pieces. The echo chamber, the test site. For what? To see which version of you deserves to walk out." "Walk out to where?" Red didn't answer. He just nodded toward the mirror. The reflection was gone. Now it showed an empty room, except for a single chair, and a figure in the chair, hunched over, hands over its face. When it looked up, it wasn't me. It wasn't anyone I recognized. It was hollow, faceless, like a mold waiting to be filled. "You choose," Red said. "Sign the book or take the chair." "What happens if I sign?" "You leave. The loop closes, but another version of you gets left behind in your place. And if I sit, you become the vessel, the blank, the copy for the next Daniel that shows up. You stay." I looked at the guest book again. My hands were shaking. My throat burned. Every Daniel before me picked themselves, didn't they? Red smiled. "You always do." The room buzzed louder. The mirror flickered. I stood in silence for a long moment, the weight of every version of me pressing in from every cracked shard, every broken choice. I saw each one now, laughing, crying, screaming, lying to themselves. Me, all of me. I put the book down, and I walked toward the chair. Red's expression didn't change, but something in the air shifted, like a frequency dropped. A silence deeper than silence fell. I sat. Cold metal touched my skin. The mirror vanished. The room brightened. Red whispered, almost kindly, "He'll be here soon." A light blinked outside. A car pulling up. Tires crunching gravel. And then, "Same room as last time, huh?" The door opened. A man stepped in. He looked tired, lost, like someone 10 hours into a desert drive. He walked past the front desk. He didn't notice me sitting in the dark. He took the key to room 07, and just before he closed the door, I whispered something only he could hear. "Let me finish what you started." The loop closed. and somewhere far beneath the surface of the desert, something sighed, not in anger, not in joy, in hunger,